Meet Hakeem Jeffries, the newest House Democratic leader. Somebody very interesting. Got a bit of a past that the Democrats would have issue with if he were not a Democrat, if he were a Republican. We've got 3 clips of him when he was very upset with Donald Trump's election, saying that he had a lot of questions about it, almost questioning the outcome of an American election. Very shocking behavior, but the Democrats don't care about it. The media doesn't care about it. In fact, they voted for him because this time they like what he has to say. We've got reaction from other people across the way in the Senate. But let's start off with an introduction from the Democrats' newest leader, just so we can get our bearings straight. Who is this guy? Hakeem Jeffries, the newest Democratic leader in the House of Representatives, taking over for Nancy Pelosi. Here he is.
It's an honor to stand before you today.
Democrats on Wednesday unanimously elected Hakeem Jeffries to serve as the party's top leader in the House of Representatives, replacing Nancy Pelosi to become the first Black American to hold such a high-ranking position in Congress.
Historic.
At a news conference, the 52-year-old New Yorker acknowledged his 82-year-old predecessor, who in 2007 was the first woman to be elected House Speaker.
I also want to convey my thanks to Speaker Nancy Pelosi, an extraordinary speaker for the ages, who has delivered so much for so many over such a significant period of time. Our caucus is better, our country is better, the world is better because of Speaker Nancy Pelosi's incredible leadership.
Pelosi announced on November 17th that she would give up her leadership
On the side of the aisle and work with them.
Let's see here.
Democratic caucus beginning in January.
We look forward to finding opportunities to partner with the other side of the aisle and work with them whenever possible. But we will also push back against extremism whenever necessary.
Great.
With Republicans in control of the House next year, leader Kevin
going.
McCarthy, who is set to become the next speaker in January, said his party would push for deep cuts in spending. And
all right, so we've got Hakeem Jeffries. He's saying, look, we'd love to work with the other side. Unless they're extremist terrorists, then we're not going to even think about it. We are going to push back. Now, what's very curious about this is we know that it's illegal to question prior elections, especially here on YouTube. You definitely can't do that. And the 2021 is really a bad one. It's a big, big no-no. You're not allowed to talk about that. But the 2016 election, it's like pretty much fair game. I don't think anybody cares at all. So including the Democrats. Now, if you reversed this and you made this individual a Republican and he said these things, this would be insurrectionary language. It would be undermining American democracy. It would be illegal to really even talk about this on the major platforms. But because it is their version of that, it's all good.
It's a possibility, but let's take the first step in terms of the full disclosure of the report and the underlying documentation. The American people deserve to know whether Donald Trump is either A, a legitimate president, B, a Russian asset,
insurrection,
C, the functional equivalent of an organized crime boss, or D, just a useful idiot who happens to have been victimized by the greatest collection of coincidences in the history of the Republic.
Congressman, it sounds like you've come to your own conclusions.
He could be even an illegitimate president? Wow, my gosh. So it sounds like he might be trying to incite a seditious conspiracy or something. I'm not sure. We'll have to continue to see. Let's see if we can add a little meat to the bone and learn a little bit more about Hakeem Jeffries. This is the new Democratic House leader saying that there may be a little bit of cloud of doubt over the former president, Donald Trump.
I don't think not attending the inauguration, for instance, would be disrespecting that principle in this particular situation, because John Lewis is completely right. There is a cloud of illegitimacy around the election of Donald Trump. The Russians interfered with his election. James Comey and the FBI interfered with his election. The fake news industry interfered with his election.
Is the FBI aware of this? Does Merrick Garland know this guy is in Congress? You can't talk like that. That's illegal. They've got people canceled and in jail for this stuff. And we've got Stuart Rhodes and we've got others who said that, there may have been, some other issues. And man, they were sending text messages to each other and stuff. This guy's saying this stuff openly on MSNBC. Wow. All right. So that's pretty interesting. That's another clip. And here, let's see if 2 for 2, it seems like it might be a problematic, But if it's 3 for 3, then he's definitely a terrorist, insurrectionist. Let's listen. Hakeem Jeffries scolding somebody or loving up with somebody. Look, she's very happy about this. Very smiley with somebody. Opining about Donald Trump and prior elections.
Seems to me that there's a cloud of illegitimacy that continues to hang over 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, and that patriotic Americans have a responsibility to try to figure out what the heck happened in terms of the malignant tumor that seemed to have been embedded in that 2016 campaign. What did the president know?
Regular order.
When did he know it?
Regular order.
And how do we prevent this type of malignant activity from happening again?
A cloud over the White House. A lot of illegitimacy. A malignant tumor. What do you have to do with a malignant tumor? You have to cut it out. You've got to kill it. You've got to eliminate it. Well, it's very curious that you can get away with that if you're a Democrat. In fact, you get promoted. He's got the best job that every Democrat wanted. They gave it to this guy. So you see how it works? If you're a Republican and you do this stuff, your life is ruined. You're called a conspiracy theorist. You can't question a prior election if you're on the right. If you're on the left, you get promoted to the highest position that you can get in the House of Representatives. And the media lets it go. It's very disgusting, but it's reality. And we're going to have a lot of this guy probably for a long time. I mean, how many years is he going to be there? Nancy Pelosi was there until she was 180. So now, we might have him until, I don't know what, 2037? I don't know. 2337? Yeah. All right. So here we've got some more reaction, of course, from Nancy Pelosi. She's thrilled. She's very excited to get out of there or to get out of the blast zone. Here's Nancy Pelosi, who's giving up the gavel, communicating that she's just thrilled that a new core group of America's best and brightest are coming in to take over leadership to save our country.
Okay, and this week we have marked a week of transition as the moment, House Democrats
one of their
are
favorite
passing
words.
the torch to a new generation of leaders. I'm so excited about the enthusiasm of so many people who wanted to participate. Over the years, we kept adding to the number of people who would be at the leadership table. When I first became leader, it was 8, and now it's more like 17. I think they may have added 1 or 2 in the last day or so, more than double what was there, again, when I first became a leader. And so it reflects the beautiful diversity of our caucus, and I couldn't be more thrilled. Again, as I mentioned, Hakeem Jeffries. They tell me he's leader designate until January. Is that correct? So, leader Hakeem Jeffries and whip designate Catherine Clark and chairman designate Pete Aguilar. We're proud of all of them. They have leadership experience.
Great.
And I wish them well. Together, House Democratic Leader, it reflects, again, not only the diversity, but the vibrancy of our caucus. Again, the new leadership always bringing fresh ideas, entrepreneurial thinking, their take on a vision and their path to achieving that vision.
Did she say entrepreneurial thinking? What is she talking about? What is Hakeem Jeffries' background? Is he an entrepreneur? He's a corporate lawyer. All right, there you go. Let's learn a little bit more about this fella, shall we? Hakeem Jeffries. He's an American politician and an attorney, served in the U.S. Representative since 2013 for the New York 8th District. All right, so he's been there for a long time. Prior to that, he was a corporate lawyer, worked for Paul Weiss Rifkin, worked at a law firm, so didn't start a law firm, then worked for Viacom, ran and served for New York State Assembly from 2007 to 2012. Okay, so he's been in government since 2007. Great. And looks like he didn't start any businesses at all. And he just worked at a law firm that other people started and ran. All right, so he got elected to become the minority leader of the House of Representatives. Great. So I don't know what she's talking about in terms of his entrepreneurial ability.
Invigorate the caucus. Again, I'm personally grateful for the opportunity I have had to serve in leadership, 20 years as leader or speaker, just a while as whip to begin with, and I consider it a great privilege, but I'm very, very happy to be seeing all that I wish that, as one who has served so long, my dream is that they do better. And I think everybody who has a position of responsibility always wants their successors to do better.
Just like a mom or a father to their child. Isn't that beautiful? I worked so hard so you could live a better life, Johnny. She's giving birth to Hakeem Jeffries. Beautiful. All right, so that is Nancy Pelosi. She got asked a question about this, about Trump's taxes. We already talked about this case previously. Trump didn't want his taxes to be turned over to the House of Representatives, obviously, because, of course, they're monsters. But unfortunately, that's not going to be his wish, or his wish is not going to be granted. The Trump tax records are going over, and Miss Pelosi is asked about this. Hey, Nancy, what do you think about the House that you're now leaving getting their hands on Trump's tax records? Anything to say on that topic?
Yes,
Madam Speaker, the Supreme Court ruled in favor of the Ways and Means Committee finally in their Trump tax return case last week. I'm curious, what would you like the committee to do with these returns they fought so hard and so long to acquire?
Well, I'm not involved in that. I mean, I don't know what they intend to do.
Release them?
I'd like to know, just as you would like to know.
Leak them to the Washington Post?
But I think that give credit to Chairman of the Ways and Means Committee, Richie Neal. He handled this with dignity. He handled it with its purpose, that is to say, we need to see how this works. We need to possibly have legislation requiring candidates for president that reach a certain threshold that the public has a right to see their tax returns. And so where they go next, I don't know.
If they
Probably to the Washington
release
Post.
information from those returns, do you believe they should?
That's a judgment they're going to have to make in keeping with what the purpose is. The purpose is how do we, how does this exercise, which took a very long time, but was upheld by the Supreme Court, the right of Congress to have access to that.
It wasn't upheld. They just didn't accept Trump's case. They just declined his case. They just said, okay, well, they'll just, take it. They didn't rule on it and say, Nancy Pelosi's doing a great job. They just didn't accept it and hear it.
To go forward. I think the public has a right to know. That's why we should pass legislation requiring candidates to do that. That's why every other candidate has, except who, and who shall remain nameless here.
She hates him so much.
So I would hope that the public would have the opportunity to see it. But again, it's complicated, it's technical, it's legal, and Richie Neal has handled this with great dignity. There have been those in the public who be saying he should be doing this and he should be doing that. No, he should be handling it with the dignity that it deserves.
Madam Speaker.
Okay, so the dignity. All right, well, so the Trump taxes, we'll see what ultimately happens with those. I have a hard time believing that they stay hidden under closed doors, under the beautiful, safe watch of the House Democrats. I really doubt it. So expect that probably on a Washington Post headline near you. Over in the Senate, we've got Chuck Schumer. He's very excited as well. This is the Senate Democrat leader excited about the House Democrat leader, Hakeem Jeffries, now being elected. Excited about all sorts of Democratic victories there from Chuck.
Mr. President, this morning, the House Democratic Caucus, of which we were once both members, but this morning the House Democratic Caucus will make a momentous and potentially historic decision. Selecting the next generation of leaders that will propel House Democrats forward in the 118th Congress. Every time the caucus comes together to choose its leaders, it's a big deal. But today's gathering is unlike any we have seen
Historic,
before.
man. Everything's historic.
For one, it signals the end of a magnificent era, as my dear friend, Speaker Nancy Pelosi, has chosen to step down from leadership.
Bye.
We'll never see someone like Speaker Pelosi ever again in our lifetime. But her potential successor will be history-making in its own right. After today's vote, it's largely expected the new House Democratic leader will be my friend and fellow Brooklynite, Hakeem Jeffries.
Oh, from New York.
Hakeem
Great.
Jeffries' elevation as House Democratic leader is as turning a point in the history of the United States, is a turning point in the history of the United States. Let me say that again. Hakeem Jeffries' elevation as House Democratic leader is a turning point in the history of the United States Congress.
Why?
Never before has an African-American leader or any leader of color held the top position for either party in either chamber.
Oh,
With yesterday's vote on respect for marriage and today's vote for House Democratic leader, our representative democracy continues to march forward towards its promise of equality and full representation for all Americans.
All right, so that's Chuck Schumer. Very excited about it. Historic marriage. There is an African-American now who's in charge in the House of Representatives. It's a turning point. Okay, that's great news, right? So that's what he's excited about. Now, there are some other people who are very unhappy about this. And we don't often hear from cocaine Mitch McConnell, but Turtle Mitch has emerged, and he's got something to say. So before we play this clip, make sure you've got whatever caffeinated beverage you need or a shot of adrenaline or whatever. Cocaine Mitch is very unhappy with House Democrat leader Hakeem Jeffries. How dare the Democrats elect him when he has undermined American institutions?
It has been one of the big unfortunate ironies of the past several years. Many of the same individuals and institutions on the political left who spent the years 2017 through 2020 yelling about the importance of norms and institutions have themselves not hesitated to undermine our institutions when they're unhappy with a given outcome. Just as an example, the newly elected incoming leader of House Democrats is a past election denier.
Yeah, we listened to the
who
clips.
basically said the 2016 election was, quote, illegitimate.
Can you believe that?
And suggested that we had a, quote, fake president.
Wow.
He's also mounted reckless attacks on our independent judiciary and said that justices he didn't like have, quote, zero legitimacy.
Unbelievable.
Unfortunately, when it comes to attacking our independent judiciary, the Democrats' new leader isn't an outlier. He's a representative sample.
It's true.
In the last few years, we've seen my counterpart, the Senate Democratic leader, threaten sitting justices by name over on the Supreme Court steps. We've seen President Biden and Attorney General Garland refuse to enforce federal law and put a stop to illegal harassment campaigns at the homes of justices.
Yeah, Brett Kavanaugh.
And we've seen coordinated efforts by
Banging
Democrats
drums out
and the
there.
media to use smear campaign to personally punish judges whose legal reasoning they don't like.
All right, somebody give him a hit. Give him a
The
hit.
latest target has been Justice Alito, whose great offense was overruling a deeply flawed precedent that prominent liberal legal scholars, including even the late Justice Ginsburg herself, long acknowledged was badly written and poorly reasoned. I'm confident that smear campaigns and baseless fishing expeditions will keep roping around, and I'm just as confident that Justices Alito, Thomas, and the entire court will continue to ignore the noise and the smears and practice judicial independence.
All right, so, okay, wake back up. He's done. Wake up. All right, wake up again. All right, so he is, that's about as angry as we've seen him, okay? He said, I can't believe, he said it's very unsettling that the Democrats have elected somebody who they said, if we did it, would be an insurrection. And that's about as fired up as you're going to see Mitch McConnell, Cocaine Mitch, unless he's talking about Donald Trump. Then he's very, very upset. Now, this is finally some reaction. This is Cocaine Mitch, very upset about potential Republican presidential candidates who are sitting down with anti-Semites.
First, let me just say that there is no room in the Republican Party for anti-Semitism or white supremacy.
Who's he talking about?
And anyone meeting with people advocating that point of view,
Like who?
in my judgment, are highly unlikely to ever be elected president of the United States.
Who are you talking about, Cocaine Mitch? Why don't you just come out and say it there, Turtle? We want you to say it. Don't hide behind your vagaries. Just say his name. Weenie. All right, so that's when he's fired up. He was very fired up on that one. He probably had just done a line or something. So that is the Senate minority leader for the Republicans, who they can't even win the Senate. They're just like a bunch of emasculated, Democrats kind of. And so you can see that is that's Hakeem is probably going to run circles around him, and it's going to be just a disaster to watch and follow. So I hope you join us as we cover it. Thank you for subscribing as we do.